Beneath the vines of a forgotten jungle lies a world that has shaped Jedi, toppled empires, and forged rebels in fire. This isn't just another world lost in the chaos of the Clone Wars. This is Onderon, a place where survival gave birth to resistance, where monarchy ruled behind towering walls, and where one family's sacrifice sparked a rebellion that would echo through the stars. But how did a remote, jungle-covered inner rim planet rise to become a crucible for heroes like Steela and Saw Gerrera, and a staging ground for ancient Sith sorcery? And what secrets still lie buried beneath the haunted soil of Isis? Before the Jedi, before the rebellion, Onderon was already a planet shaped by struggle. Located in the inner rim, it stood apart from its neighbours, with an ecosystem as hostile as any outer rim death world. From the moment the first human settlers arrived, they found themselves in a fight for survival, not against rival civilizations, but against the planet itself. To survive, early Onderonians didn't conquer nature, they fortified themselves against it. They built enormous walled cities, the most famous of which, Isis, encircled by towering defences. Outside these walls, the planet's lethal wilderness remained almost untouched, roamed only by outcasts who rejected city life. These survivors developed a powerful bond with native rootlings, flying beasts that would later serve as critical mounts in both ancient battles and the modern Clone Wars rebellion. But even as civilization took root behind the stone walls of Isis, something darker was awakening beneath the soil, something far older than the Republic. What if I told you Onderon wasn't just a place of resistance, but a world steeped in dark ritual and Sith magic? Hidden deep in the pages of the Keldroma epics, a legendary, semi-mythical text chronicling the events of the Great Sith War, is the tale of a Sith Translation Talisman unearthed on Onderon. This artifact, capable of deciphering ancient Force-imbued scrolls, was so powerful it became a keystone in the rise of the Crate, a Sith cult that nearly toppled the Republic 4,000 years before the Clone Wars. Was it coincidence that this haunted world bred the likes of Saw Gerrera, a rebel so radical even Mon Mothma would later turn her back on him? Or was the spirit of defiance older than any lightsaber jewel, buried deep in the planet's very roots? By the middle of the Clone Wars, Onderon stood on the brink. Although technically aligned with the Republic, its royal leadership grew increasingly sympathetic to the Confederacy of Independent Systems. This culminated in a full-blown separatist-backed coup, led by the puppet king Sanjay Rash, who ousted the loyal monarch King Denop and seized the throne of Isis. But the Republic faced a dilemma. Onderon's strategic location, bordering Hutt space, close to the core, and dangerously close to the separatist corridors, made it too important to lose. Yet Chancellor Palpatine and the Senate couldn't risk direct intervention. Open military involvement would allow Count Dooku to paint the Republic as an occupying force and drive more systems into the separatist camp. So the Jedi found a new strategy, one that would quietly test the future of the rebellion itself. Enter the Onderon Rebels, a ragtag resistance group hiding in the ruins beyond Isis. At their heart stood three figures who would shape the galaxy's future. Steela Gerrera, the inspirational leader who unified fractious factions with her courage and clarity. Saw Gerrera, her older brother, a fiery warrior whose tactics grew darker with every battle. Lux Bonteri, the son of Separatist Senator Mina Bonteri, and a political orphan caught between ideals and survival. With Jedi Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka Tano, and clone Captain Rex acting as advisors, the rebels began a campaign of urban guerrilla warfare. They struck at droid convoys, bombed key facilities, and sowed chaos among separatist-aligned government, all while building support among the people. But behind the scenes, two different philosophies clashed. Anakin favoured direct, aggressive tactics, teaching the rebels to fight like soldiers. Ahsoka, who remained behind as their main contact, urged balance and restraint. As the lines blurred between Jedi ideals and real-world insurgency, Steela emerged as a symbol of hope, while Saw grew restless under anyone's command. Could this early experiment in rebel warfare have planted the seeds for the Alliance to restore the Republic? Or did it instead birth something darker, the kind of radical extremism that would later drive Saw into the shadows, haunted by friends and foes alike? And then came the moment that would break them all. Victory always has a price. After weeks of resistance, the Onderon rebels managed to rally the people of Isis. With the help of captured defoliator tanks, they stormed the city, toppled King Rash's regime, and restored King Dendub to the throne. But during the final battle, Steela and Saw Gerrera was mortally wounded in a tragic crossfire, shot during a rescue attempt by a malfunctioning droid gunship, and falling from a cliff as Saw and Ahsoka watched helpless. Steela's death became a turning point. It didn't just end the campaign, it ended the soul of the movement. Her leadership had kept the rebels united, and without her, the group fractured. Saw Gerrera, consumed by guilt and rage, began walking a path that would sever him from the Jedi, the Republic, and even his own people. King Dendub was restored, but he ruled a broken people. Onderon was free, but fragile. The Jedi returned to Coruscant, unsure if they had planted hope, or merely the first seeds of chaos. And from this crucible, a future guerrilla leader was born, one who would fight on Geonosis, who would face the Empire, and who would clash even with Mon Mothma herself. But what happened to Onderon in the Imperial era? How did Saw's return reshape the planet's fate? And what was the Empire hiding there, deep beneath the ruins of Isis? Onderon's fragile independence didn't last long. After the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Galactic Empire, Palpatine turned his attention to securing the Mid-Rim and Inner Rim worlds, especially those with recent histories of resistance. Onderon, with its jungle-covered terrain and rebellious population, became a prime target for Imperial control. The Empire installed governors, established garrisons in Isis, and built secret facilities outside the city walls. But while many worlds submitted quietly, Onderon did not. From the ashes of his sister's revolution, Saw Gerrera returned, but this time he wasn't a Jedi-backed rebel. He was a fugitive, a warrior without a leash, hunted by both Imperials and the remnants of his former allies. He called his new group the Partisans, and their mission was simple: total war against the Empire. Operating from hidden bases deep in the Dixon jungles, Saw waged an unrelenting campaign of sabotage, ambushes, and bombings. His partisans destroyed supply convoys, assassinated governors, and uncovered Imperial secrets, including classified cloning research and kyber crystal mining projects. Yet Saw's methods grew darker over time. Civilians were caught in the crossfire. Loyalist Onderonians who refused to support him were branded collaborators, and unlike the emerging Rebel Alliance, Saw embraced torture, preemptive strikes, and even attacks on Imperial-aligned civilian targets. He was no longer fighting for Onderon's freedom. He was fighting for vengeance. One of the darkest examples came when Clone Force 99, the Bad Batch, visited Onderon on an early mission from Admiral Tarkin. Expecting to eliminate separatist holdouts, they instead found Gerrera's new recruits. Civilians, armed barely with blasters, preparing for war. Saw himself appeared and issued a dire warning. You can either adapt and survive, or die with the past. What did the Empire fear so much on Onderon that they launched Black Ops missions and deployed elite clones to hunt Saw down? And what ancient truths might have been buried beneath the jungle, drawing the Empire's interest beyond mere insurgency? The Empire's presence on Onderon wasn't just about suppressing rebellion. Intelligence reports later, recovered by both Rebel Alliance and Jyn Erso's team, revealed that the Empire had chosen Onderon as a location for top-secret experimental facilities, including bioweapon testing labs hidden deep in jungle ruins, early cloning prototype research, part of Project Warmantle, the transition from clones to conscripted stormtroopers, kyber crystal smuggling operations believed to connect with the construction of the Death Star superlaser. Onderon, long considered a backwater jungle world, now found itself on the front lines of Imperial science and secrecy. This convergence of secrets is what made Saw such a threat. He didn't just fight stormtroopers, he knew things. He exposed operations that the Empire had buried under classified orders, and that made him one of Palpatine's most hunted enemies. But Saw also burned every bridge. Even when the Rebel Alliance was forming under Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, and General Draven, they refused to work with him. Saw was labelled a terrorist, a liability, a loose cannon who endangered the broader cause. By the time of Rogue One, Saw had become a legend and a ghost, still operating from ruins on planets like Jedi, but his heart always remained on Onderon. Yet while he died on Jedi, his war never ended. His partisan cells continued to fight in his name across the galaxy, and his ruthless legacy remained etched in Onderon's soil. But what happened to Onderon after the fall of the Empire? Did it finally know peace? Or did war simply change faces? When the second Death Star was destroyed above Endor and Emperor Palpatine fell, the news reached Onderon not with celebration, but with skepticism. After all, the Jungle Moon had long learned that peace was a fleeting illusion. The New Republic was struggling to establish order across the galaxy, was slow to respond to the chaos that followed the fall of the Empire. Imperial governors on Onderon fought to retain power, turning their forces into warlords. Local militias filled the vacuum, including splinter groups of Saw Gerrera's partisans, now fractured, leaderless, and hardened by years of guerrilla warfare. The Battle of Onderon wasn't a single battle. It was a drawn-out purge of Imperial remnants, former collaborators, and war profiteers. In many ways, it was a civil war. The New Republic finally stepped in, establishing a presence on Onderon by deploying security forces and reopening diplomatic ties with ISIS. However, the damage had already been done. The jungle world remained deeply fractured, its people divided by decades of occupation, civil conflict, and partisan extremism, and the name Gerrera became both a curse and a banner. In the modern galactic era, whether during the rise of the First Order, the formation of the Resistance, or the re-emergence of the Imperial remnants, Onderon stands quietly among the mid-rim stars. Its jungles have regrown. Its city of Isis now hosts trade delegations, resistance veterans, and cultural archives documenting the rise and fall of dozens of galactic factions. But their wounds run deep. Even today, old battlefields are overrun by plant life, hiding the bones of clone troopers, separatist droids, and partisan fighters. Children carry names like Steela and Lux, not out of nostalgia, but as defiance. And new rebel cells, inspired by Saw Gerrera's brutal methods, continue to operate in fringe systems, many of them born from his Onderonian discipline. Disciples. Onderon was once just a jungle planet caught between beasts and kings, then a battleground for empires, and finally a forgotten corner of rebellion. But it never stopped resisting, and perhaps in the galaxy's endless churn of empires rising and falling, Onderon stands as a symbol, not of victory, but of endurance, of a people who bent under oppression, but never truly broke. A world where the jungle always reclaims what war tried to burn away. In the end, Onderon doesn't belong to the Jedi, the Empire, or the Rebellion. It belongs to itself. But what do you think? Should Saw Gerrera be shown more respect as a rebel leader? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, like, subscribe, and join us next week for another deep dive into the archives. If you are enjoying the videos, become a member and let's uncover the galaxy's biggest secrets together. Thanks for watching.